Hi, this is Elaine. Today I want to begin step 3 with you for the Adult Children of Alcoholics 12-step program. And I find this is the hardest video for me to make so far. I just don't know why I can't get it done, or I have to keep starting it over. But, well, I do know why. I know why it's difficult. In this program, because it started out as a Christian program and a Christian, well, going back to Alcoholics Anonymous, as a Christian-based recovery program, it uses the word God quite a bit, and that's actually okay with me. That's okay with like thousands of other people that are in recovery, but it actually does keep away and becomes a stumbling block for people who do not believe in God or who are agnostic. So I try to present, like, I want my video to be for everybody, and I can't help if like I offend somebody. I'm not going to worry about that, but I would prefer not to, because I think ACA is good for all types of people. The thing that unites those of us in this program is a dysfunctional past, and we can't deny that is something that we really need, is to overcome that dysfunctional past. So whatever stripe of religion or faith or dogma or political background you are part of, recovery is like a universal thing. That's the way I feel. Okay, so I'm going to read to you, and again, we're going to talk about this stumbling block a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and read to you the third step as introduction. Okay, made a decision to turn our lives and our will over to the care of God as we understand God. So ACA makes sure to say things like as we understand God, or to use the term higher power. All those things are helpful, but I've known people who have objected to higher power because they thought it sounded too patriarchal, and obviously to God because they don't believe in God. In fact, even if I explain that, they're just like, when you talk about it, when you say it, it makes me crazy. So I don't know what to do. But I do want you to see that in this program, we can talk about a higher power in a way that is a metaphysical understanding, and not necessarily as a religious deity out there. Okay, so what we want to do in step 3 is we really want to understand these two terms, the inner child and then reparenting. Because ultimately, if we can get this figured out and this figured out, then we've established what the higher power is in our lives, and we've also we found a way to heal. All right, so my background was, at least for a time through my adolescence, was very religious, and it was a decision that I came to. It wasn't forced on me by parents. In fact, it was when I had entered the foster care system that the pull of Christianity or whatever, I guess, it was kind of like it was like the Jesus movement back then in the early 70s, kind of almost like a hippie hybrid sort of thing. I liked it because I had friends and we had activities, and I liked literature, and so the Bible sort of was that for me. I liked the feeling of the spirituality that came out of the hymns and the togetherness and the fellowships. And so it really was a good place for me, and it taught me, in a way, God the Father was like the parent that I needed to have. And as long as I was in that church, and as long as I was getting the positive feedback, that's what it felt like for me. So in a way, that was very healing, and it helped me to get through some tough times. It helped me to, let's say, succeed a little bit in school, because I guess, prayer and the scriptures, those things kind of got me on track and comforted. all the way to, going to college. So when I got to college, though, a lot of things were happening at once. First of all, a lot of evangelical churches were changing. They were becoming very conservative. And by conservative, I mean that there was a sort of, it was like tough love all of a sudden. It was less forgiving, and it was more judgmental. It was more about sin. And actually more about, you walked through the door, you had to already measure up. It wasn't as if you could just come as you were to the church. And that was sort of a political thing. I don't want to go into that, but in a way it was really not welcoming for me to be in that church anymore. And it made me it made me doubt, who was I all that time? What had happened? What did I believe in? Was that real stuff? Or and I went into a depression for a while. And then I was in college at the same time, and I was running into a lot of other types of people with different faith backgrounds and people who didn't believe. But they sounded reasonable to me. They didn't sound like people who were going to hell. And it took a while for me to accept this change in myself, because I drifted definitely away from my faith. And I can't really say that I've ever had that same feeling that I had when I was a teenager. So I accept and understand the different viewpoints about God, and I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm perfectly fine if somebody is not a believer, and perfectly fine if somebody credits their whole recovery to God or to Jesus Christ or whoever the spiritual being is that gives them strength in their lives. I can't fault any of that. So I think that the recovery from dysfunction is a spiritual awakening. It's very important that we understand that there is a spirituality to it. And I like to think of it kind of more in metaphysical terms, because I think we can come to that point and we can see, if we need to, God the Father interacting, or we can just see the higher power. So we'll talk about the higher power, but here's the terms we really want to get acquainted with: the inner child and reparenting. So ACA, it's called Adult Children of Alcoholics, partly because you usually enter recovery, you're already an adult. But we were children of alcoholics. And so what we call ourselves is the adult child. And so the other reason we're adult children, or I am an adult child, for instance, is because the child in here, in a sense, never got its needs met. And I mean like the emotional needs that a little child should have met. But because our parents were dysfunctional, they were not able to give that to us. Now, this program is not about hating our parents or bashing our parents, but at the same time, we don't have to worry about having allegiance to them or protecting them either if they were abusive to us. It's about reparenting ourselves. So, when we were children, what comprised our memories of childhood are a number of events. There were good events and there were bad events. And then there were just things in between. So I'm going to kind of take you on a little bit of a journey in your mind where you can understand what the inner child is and why we use that term. So imagine an event in your life. I'm going to kind of make up an event. Okay, it's not necessarily based on anything personal, like a real thing in my life, but I'm just going to make it up, okay? And in that event, I have an alcoholic parent. You don't have to have an alcoholic parent. You can have another kind of dysfunctional parent. So let's take the broader definition for you if you need that. But in my scenario, there's an alcoholic parent. And the other parent, let's say, isn't even there. Maybe that parent died, or that parent is institutionalized. that parent doesn't live in the same household anymore. So I'm by myself or with my siblings in this household. And the alcoholic parent comes in. And rather than being one of those fun, jovial kind of alcoholic parents, who let's all sing and let's, let's be affectionate and let's like dance, and maybe it's the middle of the night, but, there are some like that. Even that's kind of harmful too. But this alcoholic parent is angry and disoriented and looking for somebody to strike out at, because in a sense the alcohol's like really got to his wounded or her wounded place, and comes into the house and starts to break things and knock chairs over and look around for the children, like somebody to beat up or yell at. And as a child, I'm one of those kids. And maybe I stood up to that parent because I'm a hero child, and that's what the hero child will do. That would be the response. Not an appropriate response, because a child shouldn't have to be a hero, shouldn't have to stand up to a violent adult. It's not like a good place to be, but that's that child. Or I'm the child who is the scapegoat, who doesn't stand up to the parent, but somehow tends to be the target of the parent's wrath. And I get a sound beating or a berating. Some things are said that are really mean to me about who I am and my character and everything. I just happen to have a target on my head, and I'm the child that gets it, okay, gets the repercussions of that night of drinking. Or I am the rescuer. I go around, maybe there's another sibling in the house and I've got to protect that sibling, or I'm going to go pick up the broken glass, or I'm going to maybe even try to take care of that parent, like to calm the parent down and to bring him some coffee, or I don't know, give him another glass of wine, or get him to go to sleep, or some kind of enabling thing that maybe I shouldn't have to do as a little kid, but I want to fix everything, I want to make everything better. Or I am the lost child, and that child probably doesn't get much attention, is always ignored, or is just always receding into the corner or into the wall. And what that child does is like use that inclination he already has maybe, and hides in a closet, behind a chair, and sees everything, but avoids having to deal with that parent. Okay, so those are all different kinds of scenarios, and there's probably a few more, but a child shouldn't have to go through that, right? None of those scenarios are functional, but they're coping skills on some level, because that's what the child has to do to get through the evening and get through this difficult event. Either stand up to that alcoholic parent, or unfortunately takes the brunt of everything, or rescues, or hides. That's dysfunctional behavior, but on some level it's a coping strategy, because that's all we have. We don't know any better. Plus, we shouldn't be in that circumstance. That's not how our parents are supposed to behave. And as we grew up, we found that a lot of times those parents didn't change, and they weren't able to fix the things that happened to us back then, and they weren't able to, or maybe they never thought to say they were sorry or ask for forgiveness, or truly take on a recovery program so that they could be more dysfunctional, so they could be better parents. That just simply didn't happen. And even if it did happen, it might be too late. For some of the kids are still going to need some help. Okay, so that's where the inner child is still there. So if you take that particular event, let's say you come up with an event. In fact, I invite you in your notebook, which I always encourage you to have, but I'll pause the video right now and look for it. Look for your notebook, get your pen, and think about, this is what we're really going to do in step 4, but this will help you understand the inner child and reparenting. in your notebook, one, write down an event that's particularly vivid, that you can see everything very clearly, and you hear it and maybe even smell it. Write that event down, and then how you personally reacted in that event. You could talk about which role you took on, but you don't have to identify that really. Just explain, how did you react? What was your way of coping or dealing with that situation, or not dealing with it? But however you were part of that parent and that event, or those parents, both of them. So you've done that. You've written the event. You've talked about how you reacted. Now here's the work. How did you feel? And rather than just putting one word down, put down kind of thoughts that were going through your head. Like, why does this always happen to me? Or why am I always the one that gets hit? Or I wish that my parents would take better care of my sibling because I've always got to do it. Or I'm really hungry. Why didn't anybody bring me any food? And now I have to deal with this parent coming home drunk. They didn't even remember that we didn't get dinner tonight, or something like that. So kind of, what are the feelings that were going through your mind during that event? Okay, so we've dug up that feeling. That might be emotional for you. It might even make you cry. Or maybe you don't feel anything at all because you can just tell these stories now and it doesn't seem to touch you. But granted, it's still there, because what happens is that we grow up and we get into circumstances with people not exactly like that, but things trigger us and we still take on the same role, and we still often anyway react in a similar way and with one of those roles, and we mostly feel that way. So we feel like that 5-year-old or that 7-year-old or that 13-year-old or whichever age the child was in that event. Okay, so here's the transformative part of it, and this is going to help you with the higher power. It's also going to help you with the reparenting. So it's really quite a thing. Okay, again, it's metaphysical, but it's something that you can certainly visualize. And once you do this with a number of events in your life, it'll be easier. So you are going to reparent yourself right now. The event still happened. You can't deny it. And we're not going to, in this reparenting, we're not going to necessarily try to make our parents change or something in that moment. We're going to introduce a brand new parent into our lives. And this parent can be God, and this parent can be just another parent. It's going to be the higher power. It's going to come into this scenario. Okay? So the way I like it to go is this way. That other parent comes in. That parent has a blanket. I don't know why, but I like this for my story because I remember a lot of cold evenings, and I remember a lot of evenings where I really was kind of scared and vulnerable. So this parent comes in to my little fantasy with a blanket and wraps me up. There's nothing inappropriate about the hug or the embracing. It's just completely feels safe. It's a blanket. And what does that new parent do? Doesn't confront the other parent. The other parent is just going to disappear right now. But the new parent is going to take me to a safe room, or maybe a safe house. I like to think of a nice bright kitchen and like one of those stools that are a little bit high, and on a high countertop, set me up on the stool. That parent's next to me on another stool, makes me some hot chocolate, gives me some cookies, or maybe some really, really delicious tacos, because for some reason as a kid, I really loved tacos like more than anything else. And make sure that I am fed and that I feel the comfort of like some really good food, maybe some hot food. And when that's done, the parent that has done this for me, this new parent, invites me to talk about what happened. And I do. And that parent listens to me, doesn't tell me I'm stupid, doesn't blame me, doesn't try to recolor what happened in any way, just listens. Or maybe ask some good questions, but not questions that are, kids are not responsible for their parents' dysfunction. And, even if we were kind of rascally kids, it was our parents' job to learn how to be good parents. And so the kind of questions would be, how did that make you feel? What do you need right now? Is this something I can get for you? What would you have liked your parent to do? Something like that. And then the parent would have some comforting things to say, like, with me, you will never have to be hungry. With me, you will never have to feel abandoned. With me, you will be safe. I will not hit you. I want you to play. I want you to find a toy that you like. I want you to get some crayons or some paper, and I want you to try to have fun. And that might be a hard thing to think of, because if you're a child that's traumatized by all these things, you might not even know how to do that. You might not even know how to have fun or to be a child or to feel free, because it's always a fear. Is that parent going to come home? Is that parent not going to approve of that? Is that parent going to, maybe is very strictly religious and says, you're enjoying yourself. Something's wrong here. That's like a sin. That's selfish or whatever. So this parent will gradually help you to feel like the kind of child that you should have gotten to be. So that's the dynamic of this program. And it doesn't happen like with the first time visualize. It might actually, that's powerful, that's great. But it might take a few times. It might take writing these things down and going through this kind of exercise, which, like I said, will come up in step 4. But what has happened? Now, again, like I said, if you have a problem with the word God, that's fine. What you just did is you accessed your higher power. Your higher power can be this parent that you didn't get to have, or the parent that your parents might have been if their lives had been more functional. But if you don't want the focus to be on those parents, that's perfectly fine. Invent the new parent. And make that parent is an aspect of yourself. So it's not something foreign that comes from outside of yourself. That parent is you, in a sense. You parenting the child. You giving that child validation and love and forgiveness and acceptance. And that parent is receptive to you. Okay, so that's really what the work is. The work is identifying this, because this child grows up to be the dysfunctional adult. Maybe not as dysfunctional as the parent, or maybe more so, hopefully not. Hopefully each generation things get better, okay? But that inner child needs parenting, and that's what you're going to give to that parent. To that child as the parent. So, that's basically what the program is. As far as like step 3, I don't want to belabor it. I think if you have this book here, the 12 Steps of Adult Children workbook, is different than this giant red book, which is really great to read, almost like kind of a daily devotional or something. But the workbook means I'm really going to start those 12 steps. And it makes it easy for you in some respects, because it gives you all the questions and it explains things. And there's people's stories in it. So it's like attending a group in a way, because if it's hard to attend groups right now, because it's 2020 and it's October and a lot of us are not able to go to a group, the workbook has those stories that maybe some of those you relate to. So this is a good way to go about it. So I encourage you, if you can get a sponsor, that's wonderful. But I think it's going to be harder and harder in these times to find a sponsor. Sponsor somebody that completed the 12 steps and is ready to do the service that comes from having completed the steps. I do think that you can find sometimes a friend who wants to also go through the steps. And if you go through the steps together, but without like blaming each other if one doesn't complete the steps, the one thing you don't want to do is blame other people or try to change them or have expectations that are ridiculous. It's still your recovery. So if you can do the steps with somebody, wonderful. And be grateful to them to however long that they want to continue. But it's your responsibility to take on the work of the recovery. That's the most important thing. Okay, so I really don't have much else to say about this. The end result, I do want to say this part, is self-love. Self-love is not being conceited. It's not selfish. In fact, sometimes when we're selfish or we're conceited, it's not self-love. It's attention-getting behavior. It might even be self-hatred. It might be the opposite. It might be overcompensating. Self-love is restoring to us the confidence, the joy, the competence that we need, the emotional sobriety. And this is actually what we need to do to function as adults. We have to love ourselves first. We have to understand that. If we look into the mirror and say, I love you, and that makes us cry because we don't believe it, if we cannot say that to ourselves, then we still need to do the work. And that's okay, as long as it takes. We forgive ourselves. We give ourselves validation when we can. And we know that to get out of the triggering, out of the loneliness, out of the self-harm, we really have to learn this. And it may not make sense at first. That may not happen immediately. We should never, at any time in this program, judge ourselves harshly. We need to not do that. We need to take time and be kind to ourselves. Once we have established like self-love in our lives, we're better able to love other people. And if they abandon us for some reason, we understand this, that we have this. It doesn't mean we don't grieve the loss of somebody in our lives, or if somebody mistreats us. But we understand now that we don't have to put up with that behavior because we love ourselves. And actually, if we do want to help anybody else, not change, but help them because they want to change or because they want help, going through the 12 steps is what makes us capable of doing that without feeling like our success is based on theirs. That's actually crossing a boundary. Other people have boundaries. They say, I don't want to be better. I want to stay in dysfunction. They don't say that actually, but that's like kind of what they mean sometimes. So their lack of success is not our lack of success. But if we can help people, and some people will see that we're different, we don't have to convince them. They'll just say, you seem happier. You seem different because something about you seems more confident. And I feel like joy and confidence comes out of you in a way that I've never seen before. I want some of what you have. So that's kind of what the result is. I am also, I'm a parent. I was a teacher. I was an activist as well. And I will say that many people that are activists, good people, because they want to see a better world. They want to change something in the world that doesn't seem right. But sometimes that's acting out our dysfunctions too. We want to fix other people and we want to fix the world. We want to save the world. And it's a lot to take on if we don't have self-love. If we haven't done the recovery work, if we haven't done the spiritual work of healing that inner child, then we're just trying to fix our parents by trying to fix the world. We're trying to go out and convince people to be different for us. And that's not the place that we want to be in. So anyway, I like step 3. And the whole point is that you take all this burden and you give it over. You let go of it. And you let God or your higher power or your new parent, your highest self, the universe, whatever, take that burden from you. Okay, well, step 4 is next. That will be definitely 2 videos, maybe 3. I'd love to do it in 2, and it's absolutely impossible if you do it in 1. You can't do it. And I'll show you why. Step 4, here we go. My goodness, it's quite long. And it's going to include looking at the laundry list again. Go back if you want and look at the video on that. It's just the overview. But what it asks you to do is talk about exactly what we did, the event, what caused it, how I felt, how I reacted, and which of the 14 traits maybe came out of that circumstance. It's going to ask us to talk about the shaming that maybe we had to endure, or the shame that we feel, maybe self-imposed, family secrets. Maybe we don't even know for sure about those secrets, but we're going to have a list about that. Harms worksheet, because we're also going to talk about the harms that we've done because we're dysfunctional. So we've hurt people. And this is really a big component in recovery. It's not to beat ourselves up, but it's actually to face our dysfunction and our abandonment as well. How have we felt time and time again? The stored anger. We actually store anger in our body. It creates health conditions later in our lives. I don't think we understand how much we hold in our backs, in our shoulders, in our necks. Maybe our reaction is in our gut. So the stored anger that we feel. So we're really, in step 4, we're really getting a lot of stuff. Relationships. Oh my gosh, that's probably going to be a video in itself. Just the different kinds of relationships, our false expectations about that, our dependent behavior. So that's going to be step 4. And that's probably, I would say that's one of the hardest steps. And well worth the time. You will come out transformed. I stayed at step 4 for a really long time and did not go on to step 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or this one, which I'm doing now, pretty much is 12. I just was exhausted from it, but I was changed. And even if I continued dysfunctional behavior, you know what? I knew it was. And I couldn't blame other people. I would say, oh, here I am in the circumstance. But you knew that already. You knew this was dysfunctional and you just went ahead and did it again. But you understand it now. So step 4, that's the next one. It's going to take a few videos. I welcome you to please like this if you can. I'm not monetized. I just want you to like it, okay? Not because I need it, but because it just shows people it's useful. And subscribe if you would like to get notified, or just see it on your YouTube feed or whatever for each video that comes along. Go back, watch the other ones. Some of them are a bit slow, a little long-winded. That's me. Maybe just watch them in chunks. But make it your homework if you can. It might be less painful if you've got your notebook and you're writing this stuff down. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope that you will get something out of this. I hope you have a wonderful day and a prosperous future. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.